When you're traveling to Europe, there are going to be expectations. You do a lot of research, you watch YouTube videos, you see and hear things from other people, and you go into these places with an idea of what you may think it will be like. Certain places, especially some of the super popular destinations like Paris and London and Rome, have these weighted expectations to them that they're these beautiful places or that the food is amazing and all that sort of stuff. And because of that, sometimes you leave a place feeling a bit better or a bit worse about how it actually was compared to your expectations. So today I'm going to be giving you 5 overrated places in Europe and 5 underrated places in Europe so that you can balance out your expectations a little bit in accordance with my experience. Now obviously your experience may be different, and I would say that any of the overrated places that I list, I would never say don't go to. I'm just going to share my personal experiences with you. My first underrated place is Nice, France. If you watched my top 10 places in Europe video, you saw that this was on that list. And it's a place that a lot of people go to. By no means is it flying under the radar, but it doesn't get the same acclaim that a lot of these other big cities do. I know the main reason I went there is just because of its proximity to Italy, where I was living. So I'm very lucky that I ended up there because I had a great time. It was really beautiful and definitely somewhere that more people should be checking out, especially in the winter. My first overrated place is Vienna, Austria. Now, a lot of people really like Vienna, and I'm glad if you do, and I hope maybe one day I'll get to go back and see if I have a different experience. But when I was there, it just wasn't quite living up to the expectation that a lot of people had given me. The city's really big and a little bit difficult to get around, and a lot of the main tourist attractions are spread out, which made it a little bit difficult to manage. I thought the architecture was really beautiful in a lot of spots, but I also thought that there was a degree of commercialism that overpowered some sections of the city, and I know that's ironic coming from an American. Our whole society is built on commercialism, but it's just not something I was used to seeing in Europe, and it kind of just threw me off a little bit. My next underrated place is Kotor, Montenegro. The combination of the mountains with the lake, it's like a fjord-like situation with this beautiful old town that is almost reminiscent of Venice or Dubrovnik. It's beautiful, the food is good, it's relatively inexpensive, and it wasn't really crowded, which was fantastic. If there was a stock market of places to travel in Europe and you could invest in places, I would invest in Montenegro. A couple years ago, I would have said the same thing about Iceland, and now that's a wildly popular tourist destination, and I think Montenegro could be next. It's the sort of place that not a lot of people have caught on to yet, so it's still a bit of a hidden gem, but I think it very easily could become a tourist hotbed very, very soon. My next overrated place is Brussels, Belgium. Now, this is more a credit to some of the other places in the area than to Brussels itself. I went there along with Amsterdam, which is obviously not in Belgium, but it's nearby. It's also close to Paris, and then I went to Bruges, also in Belgium. And overall, I thought that Brussels, when you compare it to some of those other places, just doesn't hold up in that same category. And again, this isn't saying that Brussels is bad. If you have the means, I would totally go. The food is good, the architecture is beautiful, and there were some really nice museums and stuff. But if I had limited time in that kind of low country part of Europe, I probably wouldn't allocate more to Brussels. I would spend more time in Bruges or Amsterdam or just other small towns in the area. My next underrated place is Ravenna in Italy. This is a place that not a lot of people go to, and I probably wouldn't have ended up at if I wasn't living in Italy. I went here on my way back home from Venice, and I actually thought it was a really cool little town. The architecture is beautiful. There is a distinct lack of tourism, but it is still tourist friendly. The food is good. There's a cool little market you can go to. It's not somewhere you need to dedicate a lot of time to. I think a day here would be plenty, but it is really cool, and I think it's worth a stop if you're looking for these hidden gems in Italy that not a lot of other people get to go to. Sticking in Italy for my next overrated place is Venice, Italy. Now, you guys know my thoughts on Venice. I've done 2 videos from there now, and I know my take is a little bit controversial, but I just don't think Venice lives up to the hype. This is not a discredit to Venice itself. I think Venice is a lovely city, and I think it has a lot of pros to it, but the expectations are just so high with Venice that it's the most amazing, magical place on the earth, and I really just don't think that's true. Again, this is a controversial opinion, but I don't think Venice is one of the best cities in Italy. I don't think it's the best canal city in Europe. I think Bruges, Amsterdam, Annecy, France, they're all above Venice. I think it's a must-do if you're in Italy. It's a magical place, that is a once-in-a-lifetime type of trip, especially with the way climate change is affecting the city, and I think it's something worth saving. But the problem with Venice is that a lot of the locals have left the city. They've left that main island part of the city, and it doesn't have that same local charm to it anymore that it may have used to 30 years ago. Of all the places I went in Italy, Venice felt the most touristy, and not in a good way. And I know I'm a tourist, I'm contributing to the problem, I acknowledge these things, but when I'm traveling, I like to go to some places that don't feel like they're made for tourists, but they're just a place that can accommodate tourists. My second to last underrated spot is Riquewihr, France. It's in the Alsace region of France. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. This is a really cute little town. It's right by Colmar, which is kind of like the big brother. It gets all the attention. That's where a lot of the tourists go. But Riquewihr is a little bit smaller, but it's really cute. It's not nearly as touristy, and it's almost even more beautiful. This is the sort of place that I would definitely recommend as a hidden gem, and if you're in the area, it's definitely a spot I would check out. My next overrated spot is Monaco. This is another one where we're really talking not about my least favorite, but just about overrated, that there's an expectation that's extremely high and it didn't quite live up to it. I thought Monaco was beautiful. The views of the city and the harbor are incredible. Seeing all the fancy cars is really fun. The casino is obviously gorgeous, and just in general, it's beautiful, but it did feel a little bit artificial to me. I know it is artificial. It's a country that's crafted like an amusement park to be a certain way and to feel a certain way for the ultra rich, and I felt almost out of place there. Which is expected. I'm not the demographic that they're targeting for this place, and that's okay, and it's okay to acknowledge that. But that feeling of being out of place just made me slightly uncomfortable at times, which is why it probably wasn't the best place for me. Worth a day trip if you're in the area, 100%. Go. It's the second smallest country in the world. It's totally worth going and seeing, but I probably won't go back anytime soon. My last underrated place is Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. I went here by myself pretty early on in the semester, and I'm so glad I did, because this was an incredible little town, and I really want to go back one day when it's warm and I can truly appreciate the greenery of the place, because I was there in winter and it was beautiful and snowy, but it definitely had a different feel. The food was really good, the wine was really good, the architecture is beautiful, the people were incredibly kind, and there was a ton of fun stuff to do in the city. It's really not that far from some of these other popular tourist destinations like Croatia and Italy and Switzerland and Austria, but not enough people go to Slovenia, and I would recommend that you do if you have the time. And my last overrated spot is Frankfurt, Germany. Now, I love Germany. There are a ton of really cool cities and towns in Germany. I've got my Germany football jersey on right now. I love Germany. The thing about Frankfurt is that it is the most modern city that I've been to in Germany, and that's just not the sort of thing that I was looking for while I was there. A large section of the city is catering towards business people, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but the historical section obviously doesn't exist the same way it used to because of World War II and bombings and such like that. They do have a really cool plaza area, and that was a really beautiful spot, and the river is cool to walk along with. There's some stalls there that sell food and beautiful views of the river, but I had very high expectations going into the city because I had heard a lot of really good things, and I just don't think it is up there with some of my favorite places in Germany as a tourist, where I'm going to see the old medieval culture and stuff like that, and I understand why. That's not Frankfurt's fault. I'm not saying you shouldn't go there, and I always feel bad doing these negative videos because I don't like to be negative. I would still totally recommend going there, and I'm very lucky that I got to go there, but I do think that if I was going back to Germany, or if I had a friend going to Germany, there were other places that I would recommend first. But that's going to do it for this video. I could totally do another one of these. I could come up with 5 more of each, so if you want to see that, let me know down in the comments. I've got a couple more videos coming out soon, so keep your eyes out for those, but as for this one, thanks for watching.